5:17 local time. Northern Arabian Sea. The first flash appears on the combat screen so quickly that for a split second it looks like a system glitch. Nobody inside the destroyer's combat information center speaks. Then the tactical officer leans forward. Fast mover. Bearing 038. Low altitude. A second track appears. Then a third. And just like that, the room changes. Keyboards start hammering. Headsets explode with clipped voices. Radar operators lock onto the growing threat, while the low mechanical hum of the warship suddenly feels heavier, sharper, alive. On the main tactical display, multiple tracks are racing out from the Iranian coastline. Low, cold, fast. Nobody needs to explain what that means. Possible coastal launch. Multiple inbound. Time to outer screen, under 4 minutes. Up on the bridge, the sea still looks calm. Dawn is just beginning to rise over the horizon, turning the water flat gray-blue. Perfect conditions for hiding missiles until the last possible second. Across the carrier strike group, alarms begin spreading ship to ship faster than sunlight itself. On the carrier deck, crew members freeze mid-motion and instinctively look toward the island. On the cruiser, spy radar sweeps harder across the horizon. On the outer destroyer closest to the threat axis, the captain steps toward the bridge glass without panic, without drama. Set condition 3 throughout the screen. Weapons tight pending confirmation. The order moves through the ship like electricity. Below deck, sailors strap in. Hatches seal shut. Weapon systems wake fully. Mounts rotate across the weather deck with tiny mechanical adjustments almost invisible to the naked eye. No movement is wasted. At the center of the formation, the carrier holds course. No panic turn. No chaos. Just discipline. Total trust in a defensive system designed for exactly this moment. Back inside CIC, the tracks sharpen. Sea skimming. Accelerating. An operator changes filters, checks again, then finally says the words nobody wanted confirmed. Confirmed hostile. These are missiles. Silence. Then the tactical officer answers with a calm voice that sounds almost inhuman under pressure. Report to the group. Multiple anti-ship missiles inbound from the Iranian coast. Across the secure network, every ship receives a warning instantly. The carrier group is no longer monitoring a possible threat. It is under attack. At 5:18, bridge-to-bridge warnings blast across open frequencies. Iranian coastal station. This is a United States Navy formation operating lawfully in international waters. You are engaging U.S. naval vessels. Cease fire immediately. No response. A second warning follows. Then a third. Only static answers back. And that silence says everything. This is not intimidation, not posturing. Someone on that shoreline already decided to fire. Now the only question left is whether the first intercept happens far away or way too close. The formation begins shifting. Outer destroyers widen slightly, carving clean intercept geometry across the water. The cruiser pivots just enough to cover a secondary approach corridor. Inside the carrier, deck crews start securing aircraft at violent speed. No shouting, no cinematic panic. Just trained people moving faster than normal, because reality is quieter than fear. Then the tactical display changes again. One inbound suddenly splits. Then another. The operator's voice tightens. Stand by, additional returns. Total count now 6. That land hard. 3 missiles are dangerous. 6 missiles are intent. This is no warning shot anymore. This is saturation. The attackers are trying to split defenses, overload reactions, and force one mistake somewhere in the chain. But the one thing this strike group is built to avoid is panic. Aegis prioritized targets. Assign shooters. Hold close layer for leakers. The command fires through the fleet instantly. Every radar picture merges into one shared battlefield. Every ship sees the same threats. Every captain understands the same brutal truth. If the outer screen fails, the fight gets personal. Fire. Deep inside the destroyer's hull, vertical launch cells erupt open. The first interceptor punches into the dawn sky. Then another. Then another. From a distance, it almost looks peaceful. Inside CIC, nobody even blinks. Every eye is glued to the tactical scope. The first hostile track suddenly disappears. Splash 1. No cheering, just confirmation. Another interceptor arcs high before diving toward a second missile skimming low through sea clutter. Splash 2. 2 down, for still coming. Across the carrier deck, yellow shirts and ordnance crews move with brutal urgency. Aircraft are chained tighter. Fire teams position themselves along exposed sections of steel, knowing one successful hit could rip across the flight deck in seconds. Then the rage shifts again. One Iranian missile drops even lower and swings wide around the formation. A second offsets behind it. The operator immediately catches it. Raid splitting. Possible saturation tactic south corridor. Exactly. The missiles were never meant to arrive together. They were meant to fracture timing, force early shots, create one opening. The cruiser engages. Fresh interceptors launch. 3 tracks converge on the display. Then one hostile vanishes. Splash 3. But another survives. Still running. Still low. Now the room goes quiet again. Because danger is no longer distant. It is getting close. At 5:20, 3 hostile missiles are confirmed destroyed. A 4th is probably damaged, but 2 are still inbound, and one of them is now driving directly toward the carrier's inner defensive ring. Prepare close layer. Repeat, prepare close layer. That changes everything. Long-range intercepts are system warfare. Clinical, mathematical. Close layer defense feels different. Now sailors hear the engagement. Now reaction windows collapse into seconds. Now the final intercept has to happen almost on top of the fleet. On the escort destroyer guarding starboard side, the close-in weapon system spins alive. Radar locks, barrels align, ammunition feed cycle. Every sensor on board narrows toward one incoming point moving over black water at terrifying speed. Leaker confirmed. Bearing 041. Fast. 9 miles. At that speed, 9 miles is not distance. It is time disappearing. The destroyer angles slightly between the missile and the carrier. Not dramatic. Just enough to shield the center of the formation if everything else fails. The captain never raises. His voice. Hold course. Keep the carrier covered. The carrier remains steady behind them. No panic. No breaking formation. Only trust. Back in CIC. The range keeps collapsing. 8 miles. 6. 5. The missile stays low, hugging the ocean so tightly it almost disappears inside surface clutter. It was designed exactly for this. Then another transmission hits the network. Possible second leaker in North Corridor. Delayed track. Nobody reacts outwardly, but every person in the room understands the implication instantly. This might not be over after one intercept. Engage inner layer. A defensive missile launches hard from the destroyer. The tactical display tightens. Tracks converge. Then, nothing. The hostile symbol is still there. The interceptor missed. For the first time all morning, the room feels smaller. Not louder. Smaller. Because now everybody understands the same brutal reality. The next engagement happens inside visual range. Range for miles. On the carrier island, officers stare at the tactical plot without speaking. Deck crews crouch behind equipment. Fire teams wait beside charge hoses. The destroyer captain watches the horizon through bridge glass glowing pale with early sunlight. Then he gives one final order. Take it. The close-in weapon system unleashes instantly. A violent mechanical scream tears across the deck as thousands of rounds rip over the water in a stream so dense it almost looks solid. For the first time, the missile becomes visible. Low, fast, barely above the sea. Then the rounds hit. The horizon erupts. Not a cinematic fireball. A violent mid-air disintegration. Fragments scatter across the water. Flaming debris skips across the surface. The concussion rolls over fleet hard enough to shake bridge windows. Inside CIC, the hostile symbol disappears. Half a second later, splash confirmed. Nobody celebrates, because everyone knows how close that was. Very close. Then another operator turns toward the tactical officer. New emissions from the Iranian coast. The room freezes for half a heartbeat. Additional radar activity. Possible launcher movement inland. The shoreline is waking up again, and the tactical officer quietly says the words nobody wanted to hear. They're not done. At 5:21, the battle changes completely. Until now, the strike group has been fighting defensively, absorbing, intercepting, surviving. Now the fleet starts hunting. Radar emissions from the coast combine with infrared tracking, electronic surveillance, and bearing cuts from every ship in the formation. Separate pieces suddenly become a target. Probable coastal battery identified. Another operator follows immediately. Secondary emitter active inland. Possible backup fire control. That is enough. The Admiral studies a tactical screen for one silent moment. Do we have a lock? Good enough to suppress. He nods once. Turn the tide. Those 4 words shift the entire rhythm of the operation. The carrier air wing roars alive. Deck crews rip chains free from aircraft. Engines scream awake. Electronic warfare aircraft prepare first, because the coastal batteries only remain dangerous as long as they can communicate in sea. Blind the radar, break the network, then kill the launchers. This is not revenge. It is systems warfare. High overhead, surveillance aircraft widen the tactical picture. Passive sensors sweep the coastline. One signal fades. Another flickers. A third remains stable too long. That becomes the target. Heat signatures. Vehicle movement. Radar support. Likely launcher site confirmed. At 5:28, the first American jets launch into the dawn, low over the sea before climbing east. Behind them, the strike group remains fully defensive, because disciplined fleets never assume the danger is over. Then the first enemy radar disappears from the screen. A hard spike, a flicker, gone. Another weak backup emitter appears inland, trying to take control of a fight already collapsing. They're handing off control, the air warfare commander mutters. Too late. The strike aircraft push harder. The Iranian launch network is now exposed. Every radar pulse, every thermal bloom, every movement along the coast has become a coordinate. That was a fatal mistake. Not firing first, firing and missing. At 5:31, the lead pilot rolls onto the target zone. He does not see politics. He sees geometry, launch vehicles, support trucks, radar units trying to hide after it is already too late. Main target suppress. The report comes back cold and professional. No new launches detected. Out at sea, the momentum has fully shifted. The strike group is no longer waiting to survive. Now it controls the sequence. Escorts continue scanning the horizon. Weapons stay armed. But the coastline that tried to dictate the fight is now under pressure itself. One launcher destroyed. One radar site erased. Backup coordination disrupted. No confirmed follow-up salvo. The carrier remains underway. Flight operations continue. The formation never broke. That matters, because this entire engagement was decided in minutes. Modern naval warfare does not give second chances. The difference between survival and catastrophe is often one system, one crew, one burst of fire at exactly the right second. By 5:42 local time, the sea looks calm again. The horizon remains pale gray. Outer escorts still hold formation. The carrier continues forward with the same heavy confidence she carried before the first missile launch. But the balance underneath that calm has changed completely. Iran fired first. But firing first does not mean controlling the outcome. The side that controls the sequence controls the fight. And this morning, the United States Navy proved exactly why carrier strike groups remain among the most dangerous military formations on Earth. No panic, no confusion. Just steel, radar, discipline, and violence arriving in perfect order.